Economists call businesses firms, and the purpose of any firm is to make a profit, as much profit as possible. Today, we're going to be driving around Bowling Green looking at different firms competing in different types of markets, and we're going to see how they use different strategies to maximize that profit. Market power refers to a firm's ability to change the price it sells its good at. Some firms have a lot of market power, and some only have a little bit or none at all. Our first type of market we're going to look at is competitive markets. And there's no better example of a competitive market than the market for gasoline. As you can see, got a gas station right behind me. So in a competitive market, there are many buyers and many sellers. Many buyers and many sellers, right? There are so many buyers and sellers that not only is there a gas station behind me across the street, but there's also a gas station that we're parked at right now. This creates a lot of powerful competitive energy between these two gas stations. Because guess what? If this guy right here raises his price by 20%, well, nobody's going to shop with him. Everybody's going to be shopping across the street at the lower priced place, right? So this is characteristic 1, many buyers, many sellers. Characteristic 2, almost all of the products are essentially the same. Gasoline at Shell is no different than gasoline at Marathon, is no different than gasoline at Speedway, Kroger, etc., right? It all runs your car the same way, or about the same way, right? Because there's so many buyers and sellers, because there is all the goods are pretty much the same, we get this situation where the market determines the price. And these companies, these gas stations, become price takers. They just have to take whatever price the market for gasoline in Bowling Green provides to them. Price takers in competitive markets. Because of this intense competition between sellers in a competitive market, in the long run, economists believe that there is no economic profit, right? Because the total revenues these companies bring in is not going to be greater than the total explicit and implicit costs in the long run again. This competition dries up the profits from this place and this place as they compete never-endingly to get a little bit ahead, right? And so they're forced to take this price, and this price is often selling just at cost for them. Here we are outside Bowling Green Municipal Utility, BGMU. We've just talked about the case of firms with very little market power in competitive markets like gas stations, right? Here we have an excellent example of the opposite, a firm that has a ton of market power, a monopoly. Bowling Green gives us an example of a monopoly with its BGMU municipal utility that provides water and power to everyone in the city limits. This is an example of a price maker. They get to decide what their prices need to be. And I do believe here, since it is a government-created monopoly, remember the 3 types of monopolies that exist. Government-created monopolies exist by laws through patents or things like this, a water company. Natural monopolies exist because the cost of investing is so high, and this water company represents that as well, right? It would be very hard for 2 competing water companies to run separate pipelines all across the city. That sounds like a headache and a half, right? So in order for there to be competition, we would have to have 2 completely separate infrastructures, and that would be very costly and would raise costs to consumers, even though we had competition. So this monopoly is a price maker. They use their, the marginal benefit. How much does selling a little more bring us versus their marginal cost? How much does selling a little more cost us to determine where to produce? And then they follow the demand curve to set their price. The price makers' monopolies. The third type of monopoly is a resource-oriented monopoly. You can picture like the De Beers Diamond Company that dominated the diamond market for much of the 20th century. Since they had access to all the diamonds, they had the resource that was critical to selling it this created a monopoly, right? BGMU is not an example of a resource-based monopoly per se, at least. It is a government-created natural monopoly. So as we leave BGMU and we head on to our next stop on this wonderful tour of different types of markets, I wanted to mention, so if you go inside BGMU, that building is massive. There's a huge glass staircase, there's a water feature. That building is slick. And the reason they're able to have such a nice building, such nice offices, such nice paychecks is because they operate in a monopolistic market. They have the ability to set prices and gain long-run profits. Our competitive markets, our gas stations, our dairy farms, they aren't able to gain these big long-run profits, so they aren't able to have quite as nice stuff. How about that? We are here at Beach Bend Park in Splash Lagoon, the only amusement park here in Warren County. I would argue to you guys that Beach Bend has quite a bit of market power. They have the ability to set their prices however they choose. In some sense, I would argue that they are a monopoly. Certainly they may have regional competition, but here in the city, nothing is a large amusement park the way that Beach Bend is. So, how do monopolists use their market power to maximize their revenue? Well, they try to appeal to as many customers as possible. One of the ways that they do this is by offering different prices to different customers. This is certainly something you don't see at a gas station, which has very little market power, right? This is a feature of more monopolistic markets with more market power. It looks a little something like this. Save $5 off adult, child, or senior ticket, right? $5 off a ticket. This is just a coupon, right? But a coupon represents firms with market power advertising different prices. One price, whatever, about $40 to the customer that isn't discerning of price. Another price, $35 to a customer that wants to hunt for the coupon and get the better deal. Some customers will pay the full price, some will hunt for coupons, but the monopolist wins either way. As we leave Beach Bend Park, I just wanted to hit this final point. These coupons, these ability to set prices at different level, it has a very scary name, and it is called price discrimination. And it represents firms being able to set different prices for different customers. Price discrimination sounds like it would be awful or racist or sexist, right? And it, some people could see this as a bad thing, different customers receiving different prices. But the customers are the ones sorting themselves, clipping coupons or not. It's not the monopolists sorting customers into different groups. And it's a very common practice. You can picture an airline industry charging their business and their kind of travel vacation customers a little different. And they do. They absolutely do. And so this is common in airlines. Any firm that has some market power is going to engage in price discrimination if they can to, again, go after this goal of maximizing profit. This stop, we will be at CVS Pharmacy right off campus, and we're going to be discussing an example of oligopolies in there. Crazy big word. All it means is a market where there are only a few firms that are really vying for the competition, right? Only a couple, 3 or 4, something like that. So we'll have a great example of that inside. Soft drink market represents an oligopoly. Coke or Pepsi, they ask, because these are the two big firms that produce almost all the soft drinks. These two firms act in competition with one another, but there's a strange incentive for them to work together. Collusion, it's called, or working as a cartel. Antitrust laws protect us from this kind of behavior, but we see on their prices that they're pretty similar. Prices for oligopolies are pretty similar because they really are competing. All right, I'm outside Kroger to talk about another different type of market structure. This one is monopolistic competition. Monopolistic competition sees firms with some market power some ability to influence price, but not a ton. So we see many buyers and many sellers, just like we do with gas, right? But we don't have this every product's the same. The products differentiate themselves, sometimes by price, sometimes by quality, and sometimes just through sheer advertising or force of marketing. So let's go inside and see if we can't find a couple different examples of monopolistic competition.
Products in this aisle are essentially the same. Fluoride toothpaste to help prevent cavities. But if you look down here, AIM and Crest, some of these simple looking boxes, way differentiated from some of these designer shiny looking toothpastes up here. This difference allows for differences in price. This is differentiation of products and monopolistic competition. Alright, you guys, so I wanted to go through a quick review of everything we covered. I know that it was a bunch. So real quick, market power is the ability of a firm to influence its price. Some companies have an awful lot of market power, some have very little. Competitive markets are firms with very little market power. They characteristically have many buyers and sellers, like our gas stations. The products are largely the same, like our gas stations, and the buyers and sellers have to take the market price. They are not able to make their own price. There is also free entry and exit. Monopolies, we see only one firm that are price makers. They can gain long-run economic profit, and they engage in price discrimination, which is selling the same product to different customers at different prices. It's a big win for them and potentially can be advantageous to some consumers. Our oligopolies are markets with a few firms, like our soda. They can be incentivized to work with one another. So if Coke can whisper over to Pepsi, hey, raise your prices a little bit, we'll both sell at higher prices and we'll both make a killing. So they have an incentive to work with one another. We call this a cartel, when companies align together to work together. But this is very illegal. We have antitrust laws that prevent cartels, prevent this explicit collusion of two companies coming together to really cheat the consumer, right? And lastly, we had monopolistic competition, like our toothpaste market. We saw many firms with differentiated products. Products are differentiated by quality, by price, and by the advertising, the packaging. We saw very shiny toothpaste and very plain toothpaste. The shiny stuff was selling for 5 times as much. We also see free entry and exit with these firms, and we can use our advertising and our packaging to signal quality, signal this is the one you want, and maximize that revenue. Because after all, with all these companies in all these different markets, it's all about maximizing revenue. Thank you guys so much. Join me again next time.